Alright, we are officially live now that all the animal noises and various background sounds have been whelmed for the moment. I'm here with Grady and his wife Jessie, if I'm correct in that. Yes, okay. They were in a game with Barker, Tim, and James called It's a Beautiful Day. And this is a continuation of Bunai and Hus's story following the conclusion of that. So, without further ado, I guess I will go ahead and let you guys introduce your characters real quick, starting with you, Grady.
Alright, today I'll be playing Hus Bear. If you check out that last game on Tabletop Terrors, it's a tragic story, and it perpetuates itself. But today, we're going to find a little light in the darkness, and we're going to help Bune to find her path in life. Maybe to be helping others, maybe to be helping herself. But at least we'll figure it out. And Jesse?
I am Bune. I am a rogue, and I believe it's a explorer rogue, and I don't know what else to say about my character. You're supposed to talk about your character, I thought. I don't know.
She loves food.
Yes, I love food and exploring, so I was that's kind of why I left my family, because I was wanting to explore and try new things, and then I got caught up with that group, and so I decided to kind of stick with Merrick because he was just a lonely old man, and I kind of ended up looking to him as a father figure.
Judging by that odd look on Grady's face, I think you meant Hus? Merrick was
Yes, I
Barker's
did.
character.
Yes, I did. I meant after Merrick. Sorry.
Yes, and this is about not really much longer than a couple of days after the events of It's a Beautiful Day, and there's been a little service at the farm there that Hus has. There's a special patch of land that's been set aside. Hus, actually, I'm going to have you describe what this area looks like that is now freshly covered in soil. At the conclusion of what was a fairly brief service, but nonetheless an important one.
The panorama of the farm would be the half stone, half wooden dwarven architectural house. And just if facing it to the right would be the plot of land, so that you always get to see it. That it always gets the sunlight at the setting at dusk, and there are actually two graves there. One for Merrick, um, the friend, as it's called now, and for Onslaught, as we could never recover his name, the copper jackal that fell to the beast. Then there are fields in front of the house, and there's a barn to the distance, and there are some free roaming bovine and the pigs, but it looks like an average homestead, very compact, maybe a little bigger than it would be for just two people, but it's a beautiful plot of land in the ever darkening grin. But moving on.
Yes, the sun is setting on the night of the almost improvised funeral for this person that you've known so well. That you speak a few words and you think back on the memories that you've shared with this person that owed you his life debt for so long. And you look and you see behind the grave that there's this humongous tree that usually bears fruit in the summertime. And this is one of the reasons why you've chosen to bury this here, is because it's at this time of year it's in blossom, and it's beautiful array ranging from dark pinks all the way to glistening whites, and the way the sunlight hits it, it's almost like a rainbow of colors splashed against the backdrop. And as you say your farewells and you head out back to your homestead, that night, as you dream, you have the most vivid dream that you've ever had. You are in the middle of a giant orchard that you're completely unfamiliar with. You're familiar, of course, with orchards. You've seen them and you've been near them, but you don't know where this is. These are strange fruits that bear on this tree. In fact, when you look closer at them, it looks almost like little metallic copper fruits that are falling on the tree, and as they hit the ground, they rot and melt away. And you can see in the distance a figure of a woman who you've also never seen before. And she kind of steps into a copse of trees and disappears into the distance, and you can see that she's carrying a basket. And the wind blows, it almost says, in your ears, it almost speaks to you in a whisper. It says, "The Idlewinds call you." And as you look down at this fruit that's rotting and melting away on the ground, you pick it up, and these nasty insects start sprouting out of it, these black, pitch black insects. And as they begin to fly at your face, you hear one last word. You hear, "Come." And you bolt awake, and it's the middle of the night and you're back home. And the name Idlewood keeps repeating in your head, and you realize after a moment that you've heard of the Idlewind. It's a village not too far from here, but you've never been there before. But this definitely bodes a little strangely for you. If you try to sleep again, you can't find it. The night kind of wears on, and in the morning you just can't help but feel compelled to at least go there and make sure that everything's all right. Bunai, you wake up in the morning. What are you up to first thing in the morning? Maybe as the sun kind of peeks over the horizon.
Am I with Who's Bear, or have I not connected with them yet?
Well, this would be, I would imagine you guys are in separate rooms at the house, but you're still in his homestead, his farmhouse.
Okay. I I would instantly wake up and be like, where's breakfast? Yeah, that would be my first thought as I wake up, and I would, pad to where I knew the kitchen was and hopefully see if there was more of that delicious stew that Hoos made and just start basically foraging the kitchen for food. That would be my first thing I do in the morning.
And as you round the corner, you're almost startled by the sight of Hoos in the kitchen, uh, kind of looking a troubled look on his face as he almost stares into a distant horizon that you can't even see. Like he's almost in his own little world, stirring this pot of stew, reheating it for you in the morning. Um, you can hear in the distance the sound of wood being chopped. You know that to be Cain going about the morning chores. But who's you can see Benai's kind of looking at you a little concerned. What would you say to her?
Well, Hoos would simply grab the bowl and start filling her up, and not really say much. Give more like a trying to reassure with a good, pleasant smile and a nod, um, hoping the food will subside as he digs back into his memory, not for this dream that he's had, but for the route to get to this village. Um, being of his history, crazy dreams aren't necessarily uncommon, mad ravings and all that, but this one, again, too vivid, too real. It's not like it was sent from the other side. It's more like it was sent from arcane powers in this world. He'll go about his chores, but he's preparing himself for the trip mentally.
And you're even thinking back to some old tattered maps that you have stowed away, back from when you would wander and trade your goods, trade your foods to various nearby villages, and uh, you kind of go to your room and look through this map, and you can see the winding, snaking road and river that you would follow to get to the Idlewind, and you know that it's not much more than a couple days journey from here. You know that it's a pretty famous orchard and vineyard. A lot of very well-known wines and ciders come from this village. You haven't really had any need to go there yourself as a farmer because you don't particularly imbibe in a lot of those, and not necessarily in the alcohols, but in the you don't require grapes, you don't require apples for your farm. You're more of a down in the dirt, potatoes and turnips and that kind of thing. You don't really like things that cling from vines. They kind of send you on edge a little bit for some reason. You like things that come from the soil. But you know that it's a pretty short journey. You'd be able to do it relatively quickly. You kind of feel a little pang of guilt though, because you know that Bunai has her own journey to go on. And as you're kind of looking at this map, Bunai is there in the door frame. Oh, I'm sorry, Bunai. Let me write that down. Bunai is there in the door frame with holding a hearty bowl of stew, kind of giving you another look.
I'm kind of like, are you okay? And I just kind of keep shoveling food in, like, but I'm concerned. I'm just hungry.
Um, and he'll actually he'll put again on this facade, like he's not really worried. Um, but he also does it in a manner that he's trying to enwrap her. He's going to say, actually, things are much better than they appear. I think I'll be going on a little trip here. And I'd like if you came along, if that's okay. Um, as her stomach rolls around. Um, Husa will continue with, I'm not so good. I'm not so good with the area, and I need to get to an orchard. Do you think you know where that is? It's called the Idlewinds.
Oh yes, I've walked through there a couple times. Have very nice fruit. I've slept in the trees and nibbled myself to sleep plenty of times.
Then would you mind going? I
Um,
I think Kane could handle it around here. I think he could use some quiet time. Maybe not to himself, but at least away from the woods and the dangers.
sure, it'll be an adventure. Just bring food.
Yes, of course. And so I think we'll be spending the rest of the day preparing, and I will Hus will at one point prepare Kane for his absence around the homestead.
Yes, and Kane has no problem holding down the fort. He's kind of you can tell he's pretty spent from what he's had to go through the past few days, even though it's something that he's fairly used to being a soldier, but he just seems to be. He says he just wants a little peace before before anything else. You can tell he's a little bit more shaken up uh, by the death of Merrick than he really has any right to be, even though he really didn't know him. But it's the whole. He's trying to look strong, but underneath it, you can tell that he's kind of crumbling a little bit. He could use some time. So he very quickly agrees. Says milking cows and feeding chickens sounds like a nice change of pace.
Um, and who's still he understands exactly how Kane is feeling. He can feel his feelings. Um, and he'll start with a list of, well, since I won't be here, what you'll have to do is you'll have to, and he just starts laying off the chickens and the all the maintenance that he's doing, and um, so I think we're at least Hoos will turn in early because the old man is he's gonna need the rest before he starts to embark on a journey.
What about you, Winnie? Are you Are you up to anything special this on the day before the journey? Uh,
I probably just basically fill my backpack with food and make sure I have a nice full belly before sleep, and then kind of zonk out, knowing that we will be probably rising with first light to head out.
yes, indeed. So, alrighty. Well, that night, Bunai, you actually get a dream that comes to you, a vivid dream, um, much like that of Hoose's, who he hasn't really talked to you much about. He maybe mentioned briefly that there was an orchard that had copper fruit on it, and there was a woman that he couldn't get a good glimpse of. But you are also in a orchard with these strange copper fruits around them, and being who you are, you feel inclined to pick one up and try to take a big bite of it. And as you do, it kind of rots and melts through your fingers and drips to the ground and begins to boil on the ground. And you as you look back up, you see that all the trees are now barren, have been made barren, and the sky is bleak, and it begins to rain, and you can see eyes staring at you through the bare trees, female eyes staring at you, and she looks at you for a moment, and she says, "Are you the one?"
Um, can I can I respond in the dream, or is it just kind of like a
Yeah, you can. It just feels like you're here in this location. So um, you're absolutely able to say whatever you would like.
my first response will probably be what happened to the fruit? Like not even recognizing that she asked a question, just like amazed that this fruit dripped through my fingers and is boiling now. Like that'll be, what I'm asking about. Like what happened? Like I'm just shocked.
And she would say, "There is a famine here, a famine that I cannot understand, and I don't know if I can fix it on my own." And she kind of tries to touch the tree, and you can see the tree starts to spring back to life just a little bit, but then it quickly goes back to its dead state. And she says, "We we need someone else. We need we need help." And she looks to your side, and you notice then that Hoos is actually there by your side as well. And Hoos, if you are also now having this dream, unaware to her, kind of sharing this dream that's unfolding. She says, "Everything's dying here, withering away to nothing. Well, he becomes stronger. They call him Feast. Everything he takes, only for himself. He is the feast, and this is the famine." She says, "You must come as quickly as you can. I don't know how much longer I can hold back the darkness." And with that, you kind of feel yourself slipping out of your dream state. And she begins to yell something to you that is incomprehensible as this wind starts to blow and you howling all around you. And as you feel yourself getting blown back by this wind, you kind of both jolt awake at the same time. The morning light is just filtering through the window. Birds are chirping, the sky is blue. You're suddenly back to reality.
Lewis is going to take his provisions from last night that he prepped yesterday, and he's going to basically give his momentary farewell to Kane, and he's also going to grab the pieces of copper left from the Onslaught Jackal. And he is literally going to just wait on the porch and try to soak in the day before Gune heads out. Gune.
All right. So you guys are kind of readying up to get going. Vinay, is there anything about this stream or anything that affects the way that you go about your routine as you're about to exit?
I think like the provisions that I have packed that I had looked at last night, I think I'm just going to kind of poke them kind of just to see whether they dissolve, like it was, just kind of like, the apples or the potatoes, just kind of like make sure I can actually hold it in my hand and it was a dream, like, and then maybe pack a little bit extra in there in case or something, like, and then I will join Husper on the porch.
Yes, it's kind of a chilly morning. There's a little bit of fog still on the ground, but it's nice. It's very cool weather. It's very brilliant spring morning. All the fruit trees are in bloom. All the bushes are in bloom. There's almost a layer of pollen on the sides of the buildings that kind of gives everything a yellow sheen. And getting to Idlewind it's almost a 24-hour walk. Not non-stop, of course. You stop to have some of your provisions throughout the day. You stop to rest your feet. But it is a pretty straight road, not very hilly, until you begin to arrive closer to the Idlewinds, and you can see now why it might be called that. It's kind of buffeted on either side by these very large, almost mountainous hills, and as soon as you step inside this valley, the wind that was around you kind of begins to die down to a complete standstill. And you can see now that it's morning of the next day as you stand at the foot of this village. You can see the rising sun illuminating just rows and rows and rows of what would be vineyards and orchards and small farmhouses, and in the center there's a village and with a stream running through it. The one thing you do not see is that there are any people out. It seems like if there's anyone in town, they're all still inside. And there's also a scent in the air that would be familiar to both of you. It smells like fruit that is rotting on the vine, like almost a sickly sweet smell in the air. And with no breeze to carry it away, it's kind of festering in this valley. And
Did we smell that in the dream?
in the dream, when it kind of smelled like it smelled more metallic.
Okay.
Looking, can we see the orchards, or we haven't seen them yet? We've just smelled the stuff.
Well, you can see them. They're a little bit distant, but you can definitely tell that they're unlike the trees that you were passing earlier in the day. They don't seem to have any flowers on them. They don't seem to have any fruit hanging from them or any. In fact, as you get closer, you can see that even the vines and the branches themselves are turning black.
Since the night Merrick died, Hoos had one dream. This orchard is the first time he's had a dream that hasn't reminded him of that night. And looking around, he's looking for this spot where this lady appeared, where this guiding woman appeared, and he's also going to reach out because he doesn't see any people, but he's going to try to find them. He's going to listen, not with his ears, but with his mind.
And imagine as it kind of stretches out farther and farther, you can. How do you sense people? Do you see kind of a faint outline of them? Do you feel them in your mind, or do you hear their faint thoughts? How does that work for you?
It is a thought communication. I can simply not reply and listen, but it can be a two-way street. My mind is open to theirs and theirs to mine within a 30-foot radius.
So then what? A 30-foot radius? Okay, we'll go ahead and let you amplify that a little bit. You can hear, you're on higher ground. You've got better reception. You hear faint voices, not faint because they're not only faint because they're distant, but weak voices. Please, I'm so hungry. Please, whatever gods are out there, I'm so hungry. And you hear, I haven't had anything to eat all day, all night, the day before that, the day before that. This is madness. This is madness. Then you hear another voice. They've taken everything. You're taking everything. And it just kind of becomes a cacophony of voices. Most of them begging for food, some of them screaming out in anger at this at an unknown adversary. But you can definitely sense some anguish, some pain coming from these thoughts.
Can I use like a search action to kind of like find where these voices are coming from?
If Who's kind of lets you know that there's people nearby, you can definitely either use is it I think it's is it just called search? I think it's called investigate or
It is called
Investigation.
search. I have search on the paper you gave me. Search action.
Oh, it's a particular action that rogues.
gotcha. Okay. Well, it's not too hard to find the nearest person from here, because this house or this not this vineyard and this orchard, there's a very large, almost what you would consider to be a mansion, especially by country standards. It's 3 stories tall and it's pristine white, very well kept, huge ornate windows. You can see that there's in the distance there's a house, and the torches are burning inside. And in fact, I would think with with a roguish sense of with the roguish senses, that you would almost be able to, as you got closer to the house, see the individual footprints indented into the soil leading into and out of this house. That would indicate to you that this house has recently been entered.
Um, Hoos would follow Bune's lead, and he will certainly try to seek out any thoughts that any denizens may have inside, and if so, he will simply communicate silently with Bune to relay thoughts and impressions that he's been getting, so that with her roguish talents, her stealthy halfling style, he can at least contribute without alerting anybody else unnecessarily.
And in your mind, you hear, "Dismembered Lord, I don't ask for much, but please, my daughter, if anything, please, just enough for her. I don't matter, but her, she's melting away into nothing." And that kind of continues for a moment, and it turns into you can almost now hear the prayer turning into his inner thoughts, saying, "How could something like this happen? We paid our dues, we worked to the bone, we rose through society. How could something happen to someone like me? Thought we were protected." And as you get closer, you can see that this house has what would have been an ornate gold charm hanging on the front of it, that you would recognize to be the symbol of the dismembered lord. And someone has, it looks like somebody has desecrated it. Somebody has written or had painted black paint all over it, just blotching it out. And on the wall, written, it says, "Damn the gods."
And what language is this in?
It's just common.
It's common. Okay.
And
Okay. Hus is relaying this all to Bonet, and he's not sure what she's thinking at the moment because I think she's still processing it all. But he's going to, unless she takes an action, he's going to start heading towards the orchard itself. But he will wait for her initiative.
Okay, so you're heading back towards the orchard away from the house? Okay. So Benai, you would probably see who's kind of doubling back the way he came back up the hill towards the barren rows of trees. What do you do?
Bonet will kind of stick with Hoos and kind of almost be in a protective mode, but like she's very wary because of her dream and how this is all so familiar seemingly to, to what her dream was. And so she's kind of like searching for these voices, but at the same time she's like making sure that nothing happens like to Hoos, like, but she's using her wanderer and explorer abilities to like, track where they're going and make sure they're on the right path.
Yes, absolutely. And you would see it way before he does because he doesn't even hear this person's thoughts. But as you are walking, you can see through the trees these vibrant blue eyes looking at you, in almost hidden, but not quite because they stand out so vibrantly against the black. There is a woman watching you.
I'm gonna kind of like call out to her, like, hey, you, like, and kind of start, quickening my speed toward her.
And she would stand slowly and begin to walk away from you, just at a casual pace. And you can see this is the woman that you saw in your dreams, and she's even holding this fruit basket in her arms.
Okay. I, I get to her and then, say, I'd ask her who she was.
And she would continue walking away from you, almost grasping at fruit that's not there and putting it into a basket. And then she would turn around and you would see that her face is basically nothing but skin and bone being held together by who knows what. She's rail thin, and she doesn't look at all like the woman from your dream now. She looks like she's been, like any part of her that wasn't skin and bone has been completely taken away. And she turns and she picks another invisible fruit and puts it in her basket, and she sort of hefts it, and you can see on her shoulder, as her clothing kind of slips, the mark of a copper jackal inlaid into her shoulder, kind of glinting in the sun. And she would say, "The fruit is especially sweet this year. Nearly time to go home and start another bushel." And she kind of smiles at you and says, "Oh, hello, dear. How are you? I didn't see you here."
I'm going to take off my backpack and like find an apple and pull it out and kind of hand it to her, like see how she reacts with like real fruit.
She would kind of look at it and go, "Oh, that's not from around here, is it? I can tell it's a different breed. My dear, I have far better apples here. Just look. Look at how ripe and vibrant it is. And I couldn't possibly. I'm stuffed, dear. Positively stuffed."
Right. Who's is going to investigate this fruit with his knowledge of the otherworldly things? Because everything about this is wrong. So, unless you want an investigation, I was assuming an Arcana check.
Yes, let's make a Matthew Arcana check.
For crying out loud.
Alright, that's it. That's all I got.
Well, alright.
Just make sure it's an interstellar roll. Alright, that's enough.
Um,
Nice. This woman is you've never actually seen this in person before, but you've read about it. She has been driven mad. She's in her own world. It's not illusory. It's not magically induced. She's just so traumatized by not having food, by being so hungry that she is making herself believe that there is food. But the other thing that stands out to you about this woman is, aside from the fact that you can't hear her thoughts, is that there is an aura of magic about her that you haven't seen before. It's more powerful than anything you've ever witnessed in person. This woman is, or was, or could be a powerful arcanist.
Okay. I will easily feed this information to Bune to obviously not take the fruit also, and to not engage with this being. But having seen her copper jackal mark, as you said, this will engage her in conversation, and he will attempt to get through this madness. Being unable to reach her mind, he's already at disadvantage himself, but he's going to ask. So, it has been a long time since I've been able to touch another's mind. You have brought us here. You've touched my mind. And we want to help. Uh, I don't know how, though. You see, a few days ago, I lost a friend of mine, and the world lost another copper jackal. What can we do here? Save this village and yourself.
And she kind of gives you a little odd look. She says, "Oh dear. Whatever do you think is wrong? Why, this is the biggest harvest I've ever seen. I don't know if I could even get all this fruit. I might have to hire helpers. Oh, husband's not going to like that. What with all the company we've been having, we're spending money every day. I just don't know that nice man. He sure does have an appetite." And she continues, and by the way, the fruit is actually not, it's just imaginary. There's nothing in the basket at all, so there's nothing to take, but she kind of, she kind of lifts it up and sniffs it. "I'm going to make pie. Would you like a piece, dear?"
Who doubts this will make a difference? But he's going to reach down and pull out a radish, a really red, strong-smelling radish, and he's going to place it in the basket, and he's going to, with that, say, "Well, if you really ordered pie, radishes make a beautiful color on the crust and inside. So, unless you want to eat it right now, just enjoy it. Cut it up. Take it in." And he's going to turn to Bonet, and he will relay this as in a moment. What does she do as he places his turnip in the? What does the lady do as he puts his turnip in the basket?
She kind of looks at it for a moment and oh, I think he's going to like this more than me. Yes, a gift for our guest. Are you with him as well? Yes.
We have not been introduced.
She kind of holds it up and she starts to, you can see her involuntarily drooling, and she says, "He would like this very much." And she's kind of staring at it like it's a ruby. And she begins walking towards the house.
All right, and Hus will relay this conversation to Benet the whole time, as though she couldn't hear, but just to make sure that she understands that this lady, this being, whatever she is, doesn't have fruit. She isn't making sense of this world. She's imagining fruit. She's imagining food, and whoever she is bringing the real food to has starved her and this whole village to madness. It may be that we will be unable to save her, but we may be able to save the village. What does Boone understand this?
Yes.
What does she want to do at this point?
Boone will kind of just follow Hoose's lead and see where things like go with this woman. Like, yeah.
Yeah, she's kind of, she's got the basket around one arm and she's kind of walking back to the house now, humming a little tune. Um, you can see that walking is actually kind of difficult for her. She's kind of shaking a little bit. And if you had to guess by looking at her, it looks like she hasn't eaten in 2 weeks. And she kind of turns around to see if you're following, and for a split second, her voice kind of changes, and her face kind of gets color back to it, and she says, "Help me." And then, oh, oh dear, it's awfully warm out, isn't it? Oh my, come along now. I'm going to make a pie. She says, "We wouldn't want to keep him waiting. He's always hungry." And as she kind of walks up to the porch of this house and opens the door, she says, "Mind the shutters. He doesn't like the light very much." And you notice...
Before we, if I can get into mental range, do I feel that being's presence in there?
You definitely feel there's several people in this house, and then there's something that feels very different. What seems like to be coming from the basement. And it's thinking things in a language that you don't quite know. It almost sounds infernal in its nature.
And I will hopefully only relay that to Bonet. And also the worry, I will leave the impression of the worry, unfortunately I will leave the impression of the worry of things in this house might be able to hear his thoughts. Or hers. But hopefully, we catch whatever this thing is by surprise and not the vice versa.
And there's almost a little tick in the woman's face when you think the thought of "they can hear my thoughts," but you can't tell if it was just a tick or if something was overheard. But she instantly goes back to smiling, and she says, "I need to get wood for the fire. I'm going to make a pie." And she just kind of wanders off. And you see a little girl on the balcony, or on the stair rail, a story above you, kind of leaning down. And she says, "Who are you?"
I would look up at her and I would be like, "I'm Bonet. Would you like an apple?" And then I, proceed to dig through my bag again and kind of, how tall is that? Like, could I reach it through the bottom of the railing, like above? Well, obviously I'm a halfling, not me, but like if I were to toss it up there, essentially, I guess, to her, like hopefully, she catches it.
Yeah, she does. She catches it, and you can see how skinny her arms are, and how she kind of grabs it, and she starts eating it right away, core and everything. And she kind of looks around, and she says, "Do do you have more?" Like almost as if she's ashamed.
I have plenty more. And I will. I'll look at her and I get so sad in my heart. I'm like, let me walk up to you, and I put the backpack on, and then I kind of shuffle in the house to find the stairs leading to this little girl, so I can essentially like give her all the contents of my backpack. Like, I feel so bad. Like, I'm not even thinking about the food right now. I'm thinking about just helping this poor little child.
And you can see she's eating at a pace that's impressive even to you. And between gulps, she kind of says, "You know, my aunt tells me that we're supposed to give all the food to the man in the basement, but but I I'm hungry too, and Daddy's hungry, and Mommy's hungry. It's not very nice." And she says that really quietly, as if she doesn't want anyone to hear you. She says, "I don't like the man very much. He's not nice."
I will I'll kind of like get a little bit closer to her and be like, that can be our secret. And then I kind of feel myself like almost bristle with anger at whoever this man in the basement is, and all this stuff, all this injustice. Like, I just get so angry. Like, I am a little ball of anger right now. Like, I just want to go down in that basement, and but I can also sense that it is not something normal, which is what is holding me back from actually doing this. So I look at the little girl in the face, and I'm like, I will take care of this. Like, I will talk to this man in the basement. You are correct. It is not fair. It's not right.
And she kind of looks at the. She takes a little handful of food and she says, kind of leans forward and says, "I'm gonna take this upstairs to Daddy." And she winks, like,
Oh,
and she kind of walks up the stairs very quietly. And suddenly behind you feel the presence of the woman again, and she says, "Adriel, dear, what on earth are you doing?" And the dog barks.
that's what I'm doing.
Yes.
That was amazing. That was like she just turned into a demon right there. Just starts snatching at her. I was like, that is perfect timing. How did you do that?
She kind of looks. She looks up the stairs at what was her granddaughter, and her granddaughter's kind of frozen there with a bundle of food. And she says, "You're not being very nice to our guests. It's very naughty now." And she puts one foot on the stair, and the girl kind of takes a step back, and she takes another step forward, and as she's doing this, she kind of pushes past the two of you, and she turns.
I'm probably going to try to distract this old woman and kind of push myself in front of her and like let the little girl continue going upstairs and just like focus my attention on the little girl or on the old woman, but give the little girl a look like saying, go on. And I'm gonna look at the old woman and be like, she's doing nothing wrong. Like I want to help. Like she's not being naughty or bad at all. Like confused. Like what? I'm just confused. And I kind of try to gently like go back down the stairs with the woman in front of me, kind of like gently nudging her back down the stairs.
Yeah, she's kind of pushing back against you, like she's being very naughty.
No, she's
No
not.
one's, no one is to eat until the guest has finished eating. Very naughty. She isn't going to get any pie. And she kind of, with that, she kind of gives up trying to push past you. Her kind of bony knees and legs kind of trembling as she looks to you and she says, I don't think I like you very much. I don't think he's going to like you very much either. You won't get any pie either. None of you are getting any pie. It's all going to be for him now.
I will actually pull out one of my axes, and I'm going to cast light, and I'm going to stick it in her face. And Hus will, as he does so, he'll be like, I don't think so.
I'm gonna kind of just have a big grin and be like, that's okay, most people don't like me. And then, and just like essentially not care about this old woman. Like, I more care about that little girl and her father. Like, I'm almost chalking up this old woman to how I feel about that man in the basement. Like, I'm just like, I don't care about you. Like,
And then she kind of gives you a glare. She kind of narrows her eyes and she just says, oh, any right. He'll make it okay in the end. And she kind of, you can hear her departing and you can hear her actually taking some steps down to the basement. And you can kind of hear her muffled beneath the floorboards. Here you are, dear. I brought you all the apples in my orchard. I'm going to make a pie. And you can kind of hear, you don't hear a response, but then she seems to reply to nothing. She says, yes, there's two of them. I don't like them either. Up to no good. She says, would you like me to? Okay. And you hear her footsteps, kind of making her way back up the stair, and she's got this really fake smile on her face.
As she's making her way up the stairs, Hus is going to everybody he can reach in the house, he's just going to tell them, leave now. Leave for your own good.
And you can see, you can hear different voices kind of saying, thank to God, someone's here. Are you going to deal with him? And you would hear another voice going, listen, you can do whatever you want with him, but don't hurt her, please. And then you can kind of hear the sound of someone saying the thought of, okay, 1 foot, 2 foot, one hand in front of the other. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. Solid ground. I'm okay. She's okay. We need to go.
And Hus will take a nice deep breath and ready himself, because the people of this house are gonna are making their escape. They're going to survive this. You can feel a little bit more at ease.
And then, just as you're starting to feel at ease that the people in the house are starting to get away, that you see the old woman standing there with a smile. And then you look down and you can see clutched in her hands is a dagger. She says, "Dear, it's time to cut the pie."
I am going to make sure that my crossbow is firmly strapped to my back. It's always strapped to my back, but I'm kind of just gonna, absentmindedly, like, place my hand there, like, making myself feel more secure that it is there, and kind of give a sideways glance to Hoos, and, we kind of, I make sure that we walk in the same stride, like following this old lady down to wherever she says she has the pie, and like almost like flanking her, like, keeping our wits about us.
Yes. And what you see in the basement, if your rage wasn't already boiling over at this point, it would reach a pinnacle at what you see down here. The entire massive basement in this huge house is filled wall to wall, floor to ceiling with uneaten food. And surrounded in the middle of it, almost like a nest, you see a man. Well, he would be a man, but his skin is ash white and it's kind of slouching off of his face, and his teeth are kind of sticking out, almost like in a skeletal manner. And he is just kind of standing amongst all this food, which is starting to go bad, just beginning to go bad. And as the woman hands him a bit of food that she has, he kind of takes it and tosses it back behind him, and says, "You have done well, my servant. Now, our guests require entertainment for the evening. Pin the tail on the donkey, perhaps." And you can kind of see him grin a little bit over his bony face. And he just says, "Wasn't expecting outsiders today."
How does he react to the light of my axe?
Is it kind of radiant light or fire?
It's standard light. It's standard spell light. It's not daylight.
He kind of squints at it a little bit, like he's not really used to it, but he doesn't seem to be like shying away from it. He's almost cavalier about you guys coming down, decked out in armor and weapons and things like that. He kind of takes one look at you, and on a throne of food he sits.
Hus is going to try his best to enter his mind while Bune does what?
Bonet is just, she can feel her rage boiling up, and it's just like almost like frozen at like, I just want to snap his neck. Like, not only because there's so much food here that's being wasted, but like so many people are starving and going hungry. Who Bonet just like, without even thinking, marches almost up to this man where there's just a pile of food in between them, like marches as close as she can with that barrier of food between them, and is like, what do you think you're doing? Like, who are you to do this?
And as he speaks, you can see what he's talking about, or what he's saying when he says, "I'm building an army." And you can see in his mind, as he describes this, the village. He says, "No one suspects a famine. Destroy the entire village and then raise them as my own. An army of undead makes a man powerful indeed, don't you think?"
So Hoos can hear this in his head, but I can't, or is that what he said?
He's saying it, but Hoos can see what he's talking about. He can see the man arriving at the village, the man known as Feast, arriving at the village, being greeted, kind of cloaked and masked to cover his appearance, walking up to a house and taking residence in it, and beginning to affect the minds of the villagers as they begin to send him tribute. And you see the people getting thinner and thinner, and then you see in his mind his vision of the people falling over dead from starvation, rising again as an army of subservient undead. And then further in the reaches of his mind, you see him on a throne made of the bones of his enemies, with an army of millions. This is his ultimate goal.
See, so he has mind control then to be able to get these people to actually give up their food and essentially starve themselves?
He's got a form of, I would say, kind of like an influence, like a radius of influence that he seems to be able to imbue upon. It's hard to know where it comes from. You can just, or at least Hus in his mind can see people to feed him. Actually, Hus, you could see the man when he arrives at the village. Every time he asks for something and somebody says no, he reaches into his breast pocket and pulls out a ruby that he just holds, and it glows and shines in the face of the person that he's trying to get to do, and then their eyes kind of glaze over and change. Whatever color their pupil is, it begins to glow and become even more saturated than it was before.
That's enough. Hus is inside his mind right now, and he's going to force his way through his mind. And Hus grabs a tome, a steel tome from the satchel on his side, and as he splays it open, blood and crudely carved images greet him, and he simply flips a page, looks up, and he casts a spell, an enchantment, inside of the mind of this being that seeks to just kill and profit from death. And Hus could not. There's no way he could let this being continue what he's doing. This creature is going to have to make a saving throw against a wisdom saving throw against dissonant whispers. That is a DC 13. You're kidding. Okay then. Failed save, 3d6 to start with.
Yes, indeed.
And then a whole bunch of other functions.
He is absolutely not used to having. He's so used to influencing other people that he's absolutely wide open, like an open door.
Also, I'm casting this as a second level spell. So that'll be actually 4d6. I was incorrect. And he needs to retreat as far away as he can from me.
Nice.
He failed his save. Alright.
Okay, that's the damage in the chat there.
Yep.
Alrighty, goodness. So what does in your mind that look like? That 16 is that force psychic damage?
That is psychic damage, in fact. And
Okay.
what he hears is actually what Hus has heard his entire life. Since the first time he opened this book. He's heard death from countless lives. He's heard mad ravings from the man who used to be his father, from other dim-lit dwarves over the years, and then from that voice from the other side, that voice that has told him things that have happened before dwarves stepped on this world. And instead of gathering it over a lifetime, it's all forced in a single moment. And this being takes all of it.
And you can see the hole where his nose would be. There's this black blood just trickling out. And you can see he clenches his head as if trying to keep it from exploding with all this information all at once. And his mind just goes blank as he looks at you and he says, "What have you done?"
And as Hoots reaches down for a stone, and as a bonus action, casts Magic Stone.
Mm-hmm.
As he illuminates this stone with mystical energy and raises his axe in his other hand, he says, I have begun to end what you've started.
And does that glowing stone imbue you with anything, or is it just kind of a light source?
It is neither. It is actually imbued itself. It is now a threatening thrown weapon that counts as magical damage.
Nice. And as you finish saying what you're going to say, you feel a knife plunge into your back. as we will begin initiative after this surprise attack by a feeble old lady wielding a pie knife for 4 piercing damage as it sinks in just a little bit, as much as the armor will allow. It kind of digs in a little bit into your shoulder blade, and you can see that this woman with the glowing blue eyes is kind of grinning at you hysterically as we run into initiative order. So, let us see what we've got here. Copies that. So, you put it in the chat, that'd be great.
My computer's not working, so I had to move to the tablet, which the chat isn't working in the tablet.
No problem. You can just send it out.
Or my picture, apparently. So, okay.
Gotta love the technology issues. Always with the gnomes and the technology.
I got 15.
Okay, 16, 15. Alright, and cool. And one more thing, that'll go there. So, it starts with Feast. This creature, this half dead, half alive thing that is kind of shaking off this knowledge that he's suddenly been forced to acquire very quickly. And I believe it's his action that he has to get away from you. Is that correct? Ready?
It was an immediate action.
Okay, so he actually grabbed his head and his nose hole, I wouldn't call it his nose, started bleeding. And he kind of fell over backwards and started scrambling backwards, almost crab style, over all this food, kind of toppling piles of food over to try and get on the way of you and him. Does he have to make a save to avoid continuing to do that, or does he just only do that once?
That is a single use. That is a one-turn effect.
Gotcha. So he's now on the opposite end of the basement, as far away from you as he can possibly get. He was actually starting to claw at the wall, but then he kind of snapped out of it, and he's like, turns to you, and he says, well then, I thought this was going to be easy. And he kind of cracks his neck a little bit. He's going to hold out his hand. In one hand he's got this long and jagged blade, but in the other hand is completely open. He's going to hold out his hand at you, Hoos, and he is going to
one shot.
You begin to feel your life force getting sucked out of your body, like your energy and your vitality, like you were real wide awake and fully fed and ready to go, and now it feels like you've been awake for 10 hours and you haven't had anything to eat for 10 hours, and you've run up a hill for miles. You kind of feel like that as you take 3 points of necrotic damage, and your health is now whatever your new health is your permanent maximum HP at the moment. This thing is pretty nasty.
Oh my, oh my. Well, that happens.
Yes, it does. And with that, it actually makes it your turn.
Oh, lovely. Um, Who's is at the ready with the stone until this pain strikes him. Um, not not the not the old lady, but this drainage. He knows it's not her. She cried out for help. So instead, he's going to take whatever she wants to deal out, but he is going to end this creature. And but he's going to attempt to run up, and it's going to look as though he's going to tackle this creature, this whatever man he was. But as soon as he gets within striking distance, as long as he's far enough away, he's going to just explode. He's going to clap his... He's not going to clap his hands together. Instead, he's just going to yell. He's just going to yell. And it's a voice not of his own, not of this world, and it comes out of not his vocal cords, but his mind. And it sounds like words that can't be heard by mortal ears. And it shakes the house. And a boom of thunder rains down as he casts Shatter. So that will be another saving throw, but Constitution this time. Again, 13. Well. Okay. So
he still takes half damage, right?
He will take half damage. That is correct.
Okay.
And that is 3d8.
And here's why he takes half damage. As you do this, a wall of food, like a shield, comes up in front of him. And as you do your damage, the food obviously gets completely obliterated, but he seems to have absorbed some of it at least. And how much does he take? Okay.
Pathetic amount. A pathetic amount.
Well, it does make sense that he kind of deafens the blow from the shatter. You actually realize that it wasn't him that did that. It was actually the woman who is now clutching this bloody dagger, and she's got her hand raised up like she just summoned that thing for him to block him with. You also, when you went forward, you still had the dagger in your back. So when you went forward, it ripped itself out, and you took 4 points of damage from that. All right. And with that, we are back to we are at Bunai.
Okay. Is that first? So Drainy Voldemort is focusing on Grady or Husper, right? So he's not really looking at me, correct? Like he kind of doesn't realize I'm there.
Yeah,
So
there's actually a wall of food kind of in the way, but there's still a way to get around it.
I was just wondering, like, if I were to kind of duck and roll kind of behind him, I kind of like, you know, I've I'm upset that good food is being used for bad, and that I'm upset that Husper is being hurt. And I'm just thinking of everything, and I kind of do a little tuck and roll behind him where the food has not seemed to have risen to cover him as much. And I am going to use my crossbow. And can I sneak attack him? Because I kind of
Yeah, because you're catching him off guard. Like he'll definitely know you're there after this, but he's definitely looking this way, and you're more over here, coming around.
Okay, so I'll do my sneak attack. Wait, no, I will do my other roll first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, that is 20.
And that's a hit.
Okay, so 5 for the damage, and then the sneak attack. Um, 10. Sneak attack is 10 damage, and there's 5 for the regular damage, so 15. And I am allowed to use because of cunning action, I can use a second action, and I'm going to use hide, so I can cover myself again and just kind of like disappear.
Yes. As is most often the case, you hide behind a giant pile of food. As your arrow sticks into his neck, like through his neck, and you realize his tissue is kind of necrotic in nature, and his whole body is kind of dead, half alive, kind of in a gray area between mortality. And it kind of just went all the way through, just leaving a little hole, and there's more of this coagulated black blood kind of leaking out as he doesn't seem to hurt him as much as it would if you had landed that shot on a living person. But he certainly doesn't like that just happened. He kind of lets out a scream, and the blood flows a little bit thicker. And he looks to where the shot came from and sees nothing, so he's especially... What sorcery is this? Being ambushed by invisible magic users. And with that, it's actually the woman's turn. And you can see she's dropped the knife, and she's kind of doing this with her hands. And the food around the room starts to coalesce into this humanoid shape. And if I could describe it, it's kind of like it's kind of turning into an animated object unto itself, made of just bits and pieces of got some gourds floating around in there, and some corn, and just bushels of apples and things, just kind of all coalescing together into this animated creature that kind of lumbers forward towards I guess the only thing that it can see, which would again be Hoos, and it tries to swing a giant rack of lamb fist at him, and it just kind of goes right over your head, and you can tell that this thing is. You can tell that the woman is very preoccupied controlling this thing, which brings it back up to Feast, who is going to attempt, I believe, with a hide. Can someone attempt to find you with a wisdom check, or with a not a wisdom, a perception check?
Perception, yes.
Okay. So he's looking for his assailant. And I'm assuming a 20, unnatural 20, would be able to figure out the general shape of where you are.
Well, she needs to roll a stealth check in comparison.
Okay, yeah, let's do that then. I can't tell what that was. You're muted.
Sorry. That is a 11.
11, okay. So he's able to see you pretty quickly from your hiding spot. And he again extends out a hand. And you actually haven't felt this yet, Bunay, but you feel as he begins to drain the life force from you. 8 necrotic damage. He's actually much better at doing this to you than to Hoos for some reason. As you feel like you've been awake for 2 days, and you've been on a forced march for the past 2 days with no sleep and no food and no water. So that just kind of hits you suddenly like a giant bag of bricks, or whatever the expression is.
Sack of potatoes.
Sure, why not? And with that, we're back to you, Hoos.
Hoos flips his tome to near the front, and he's reading as this thing nearly plows into him. And as this being finds Bunay, Hoos can feel it. Hoos knows he's linked with her, with the only living being in the room right now. He knows what happened to her, and he knows exactly what this creature is doing. He points to his tome, and then he points to the creature. And he casts the exact same spell.
What spell is that again? Are you going for Shatter again?
Oh, no. The same spell he's using.
You've got like a life drain spell?
Oh, I mean, not really, but... I mean,
okay.
And yeah, Hoos drops the stone, if anybody was wondering. He's pointing with the axe hand. Oh. The roll is a... You know what? No. He's not going to deal with that. He's going to force through this like a boss. Or he's going to try. That's better. That's the only use
You
of my
don't need a
inspiration.
hero.
Ma?
Don't be a hero.
Don't be a hero. Using my only point of inspiration for the game to really try to get him for this one.
Oh, yeah.
So with Chill Touch, that will be a 24 to hit. I just rolled damage because if that doesn't hit, something's wrong. And that is 5 points of necrotic damage. Plus, he can't gain hit points until the beginning of my next turn. And if he is undead, he gains disadvantage to attack rolls to me. Until the next turn, I think.
Just to you?
Yep.
Okay.
So he took 5 necrotic damage.
And what this looks like is, it looks like his face gets covered by just a mist. And it looks like he forces his way through until it grasps. And it holds him back. And Hus is stepping back a little bit, because he was a little bit closer than Hus likes to be, but also this creature is like this new plant food monster. Food construct is all up in his face, so.
Alrighty. So yeah, he absolutely doesn't get the chance to heal, and if he tries to attack you with his attack, he's so distracted by the fact that you can see he's actually rapidly. You didn't think it was possible for him to age anymore, but he is kind of he's aging like a skeleton in a crypt would age, just kind of getting more and more decayed and more bony.
He's aging like cottage cheese.
Mm. Some people age like fine wine, other people age like milk. Yeah. Let's see. With that, I think we're back to Bunai. And you,
Bunai.
Bunai. I keep saying Bunai. I wrote it down and everything, but you know.
It's okay. So, okay, obviously I'm not hidden from Food Voldemort anymore, but am I hidden from the old lady?
Yeah, you're pretty close to Feast, and the old lady's actually kind of far back near the entrance of the basement. If you remember, the Feast got scared all the way to one side of the basement, so the woman's on the opposite side, near where the stairs back up to the first floor would be.
Now that I think about it, I don't know how to stop her without hurting her. I realize that it's not her. Okay, I'll just focus my attention on Feast, because, I mean, I have rope, but I don't think I'm going to be able to, like, tie her. I'm going to attempt my crossbow on Feast again, without the sneak attack this time.
Okay.
15.
15 is a hit.
Three.
For 3 damage? Okay.
Yeah. Man,
So-
that's nothing compared to the 15 last time.
Right? Well, sneak damage starts piling up pretty quick, especially at higher levels. It kind of sinks into his shoulder. He does the whole snap it off at the haft thing, and just kind of leaves it in. But
Okay, I'm going to use hide again, and kind of like try to dodge in a different spot, hoping he doesn't, search.
okay. And then does hide automatically hide, or do you make a stealth check?
Let me double look.
Because the room's getting kind of barren, kind of scarce on hiding spots, but
Uh,
there are a few.
Sorry, I didn't. You make a stealth check in an attempt to hide. I
Okay.
didn't. So I guess I don't know what I'd have to try to get to.
Well, it would basically be if he looks for you, he would be trying to beat whatever that number is.
Okay. Okay. So when he looks for me, I'll roll the stealth. Okay.
It's basically, as long as it's higher than his passive perception, you are hidden.
Okay.
So, we're back to the woman now. And she's going to defer her turn to the, lack of a better term, the picnic monster. There's a good name for it, but I don't know what it is yet. I was thinking compost struct, but that's a little bit too hard to say. But he's trying to buffet. Yep, it's gonna try and basically engulf you in food. Who's and it's going to, let's see, not succeed at all. So if you're able to get out of the way of that, what does that look like?
As this cascade of picnics come my way, um, it looks like a scene from stormy with a cloudy with a chance of meatballs, and Hoos will take his Drogus body and roll out of the way, only to stop and have to try to get back up again, off his old bones. Oh, okay.
Yes, indeed. And Feast is going to decide whether he wants to attack you or whether he wants to try and look for. Okay, he's trying to look for. He's trying to look for Bonet. So Bonet, if you could give me that post stealth roll, I'll go ahead and see what his perception check gives me. Let's see.
That was a natural 20.
Nice.
Plus, so I got 25.
Well, he
Was a waste.
Well, no, it's not a waste because basically he sees an outline of you. He sees your hood and your robe, and he does his life suck thing, and he thinks that he watches it slump over, and he thinks that he's killed you, and he opens up the robe and he sees a bunch of moldy fruits and vegetables.
Heh. Nice.
So he is preoccupied. You have advantage on this because he is currently opening the robe up and going, "What?"
Distraction. Um, since he's distracted, who's going to? He's going to take this opportunity to stab him in the back. Well, not really, but he's going to attempt to use this still lit hatchet and axe as a illuminated tomahawk. And there is let's see. Um 15 to hit.
I didn't see that in the chat. 15 is a hit for sure, just barely, but it does find purchase in the crude armor that he is wearing.
All right. For that much. And then Hoos is going to grab that stone from off the ground, and he's going to dance around this basement, trying to avoid this all-you-can-eat beatdown.
Nice.
And he's also going to relay to Bune that she needs to keep going, keep dodging. She needs to keep herself safe.
And with that, we're actually happy there.
Okay. Let's see. Oof. 7 to hit.
7.
Oof. Yeah, that. Oof.
Even
That's why I said the
advantage.
20 was wasted.
Even with advantage, that was a 7.
Inspiration.
He, like I said, he was distracted for this turn, so if you have advantage on the roll anyway.
Okay. What does that mean? So does that mean I hit him?
You just get to roll again, and then if it's a higher number, you can take that number instead.
Okay, cool. Okay, I rolled a 1.
Okay.
I think the halfling. I have lucky. So when I roll a 1 on an attack roll, I can re-roll the dice, and I must use the new roll.
All right. I will allow it because it's metal.
I'm not even joking. I rolled 20.
Mm.
I'm not even joking, Greg. I wish my camera worked. Yeah, so that's 23 on the attack roll. Oh, okay. And then let's see.
when a rogue has advantage, they get sneak attack.
I already had sneak attack because I'm hidden.
Doubles.
4 for the damage and 4 for the sneak attack, so 8.
So, here's what I imagine. This is a crossbow attack, right?
Crossbow, yes, a light crossbow.
So you go to fire the crossbow and it jams. And you see this guy, and he's like right on top of you. You drop your crossbow to grab whatever sidearm you have. The crossbow hits the ground, unjamming it, firing the bolt. The bolt, you can see it go Matrix style into this guy's, through his nose, out the back of his head.
Nice.
And we cut back to real time, and this now nearly headless, what you would recognize to be a wight if you had any kind of arcane schoolings, is slumps forward, his rotting brains just kind of spilling out. And
Bune watches Game of Thrones.
And you would see the glint of metal and little shimmer of jewelry as the ruby that was around his neck kind of falls to one side.
Okay, so he's dead?
He is dead. He is. He's certainly, unless he has the ability to regenerate parts of his head, not going to be much of a problem.
Since I haven't really moved, can I move to him and like kind of take the ruby, wondering like I don't know if this will reanimate him or something, and I just kind of crawl over to him over this mountain of food and kind of yank the ruby chain and then go into hide mode for the old lady in case she still has some residual effects of crazy.
She does, but her concentration has been broken, and the food creature that she's made is kind of crumbling back to the ground, and she has this look on her face like she doesn't quite know what to do next. She doesn't like a drone who hasn't been given any orders.
Okay. Let's see.
Can Hoos reach her with his mind now?
It's like trying to break through a wall, but you're slowly finding cracks being formed. And you can actually feel when Bonet picks up this necklace, the transfer of ownership. You can feel the magic of that, almost like a magical contract has been signed, negating the previous effects, but reassigning ownership to its new rightful owner.
This is dangerous in my hands.
Yes, you do get that sense that this is not 100% safe.
What is this necklace called? I want to write this down, like, so I can, inventory it.
Well, right now, it's actually asking you to name it.
Name it? Oh. Like name it by what it does, or just give it a cutesy name right now and pick what I want it to do.
Whatever you will, it be done.
Well, I'm kind of defeated from battle, so I'm not really thinking straight. I'm just gonna call it Ruby. Because I can't, I'm like, okay, Ruby, and I give it essentially like a human name, like somebody who would be called Ruby. This is my, like, yeah, because I'm not thinking, I'm still worried about who's fair and wary of the old lady, and then at the back of my mind I'm still thinking, I wonder if the child and her dad are okay, and so I'm just like, Ruby? Like, I'm like, I why are you asking me this right now? Like, thinking that, like,
so. And the gem would say, so the contract be formed.
Whoa.
And you feel this blood seep out of this ruby into your hand, and the ruby actually becomes a crystal, just a clear crystal jewel in your hand.
It's awesome.
And it says, blood of your enemies will power me.
Oh. Okay. I guess I will tuck the crystal vial. I have a little inside pocket in my inner shirt, and I will tuck it in there and be like, I'll deal with that later. And because I'm like, I don't know what's going on, and I will, and then I'll make my way over to Hoops and make sure he's okay. He got stabbed in the back, and I'm kind of slower than normal because, I have 8 necrotic damage, so I'm kind of like, yeah, I need to eat something more than usual. And I'm looking around at all this food like, yeah, I could eat all this, but then I am more concerned about people. Like, after all of this stuff with food, I'm almost like I don't want to eat. Like, I'm just like disgusted by everything right now. So I slowly make my way over to Hoos and kind of put myself between him and the old lady. And so I'm like standing halfway between each so I can look at both of them and, check on him. And I'm like, are you okay? Like, yeah.
And you can't help but notice that the old lady is not an old lady anymore. She's a young and vibrant looking half elven woman. And she kind of blinks and looks around this room at this mess that's been created, at this dead body and all this destroyed fruit and vegetables and food. And she kind of, what's going on? Why am I so
I
hungry?
was hoping you could tell us that.
And she kind of looks up and she goes, you, from my dreams. And you too.
What?
I didn't think that would work. And she kind of laughs a little bit. Says, why am I so hungry?
I will open my backpack, and the few little things that I have left in my backpack, I have a couple apples, I think, left at the bottom, and I take one out and I kind of hand it to her, like when she said, why am I so hungry? Like, hey, this is fresh.
And she kind of holds it up and she says, why do I want to say I'm going to make a pie?
No, Pune's eyes kind of widen, and she kind of takes a step more in front of Moose, and she kind of looks at her warily.
Hoos is actually going to have a conversation with this female copper jackal, and it's not something that Bunei hears. I mean, it's obviously inside of her mind. He's feeding her his thoughts, whether or not she reciprocates. And then he's going to start heading into the town. He's going to start walking out of the basement, and before he does so, he turns to Bunei, and he gives that same smile that he gave her when he started having the dreams. It's that same, like, everything's all right, and he's going to, which she can hear this time. He's going to reach out to everybody who was around the house, anybody he can sense in a distance as he starts moving through the house and moving outside, that the food is going to come there, that they can eat all they want. And I don't know how she's going to react to this. I don't know how Bunei, she's a wild card. But in essence, I have put Bunei, the wielder of this gem of life-stealing power, and the now carrier of 3 copper coins, under the care of this copper jackal. Um, Bune makes her own choices, obviously, and as the people rush downstairs, this family that has been starving and now has food, I would hope that they would distract her a little bit. Hus isn't leaving, but he's going to give her and the Copper Jackal space away from him as he proceeds into town to tell the villagers.
And you see the woman stepping forward towards Renee, and she would say, "It's coming back to me now. That man, he got all of us, even me. Should have known something was wrong." And she kind of shakes it off and she says, "My name is Amriel Shen. Well met." And she offers a hand.
Bonet takes her hand, but she's kind of like looking at who's like, what? You're just kind of like you're giving me away, like almost a tinge of like hurt, like you don't want me anymore, like she, and then she realizes like she's heard of copper jackals. She's like she can help. She can help the people that are being hurt, the children, the families, the everyone, like, and she sort of almost like puffs up her chest with pride and is like, yeah, I can do this. I want to help, like, and she kind of nods toward Hoos with a sad smile, realizing she's probably never going to see him again. And then she looks toward the woman.
And as you hand her the copper pieces, she would say, "From a fallen comrade, there's truly only enough here for one. Otherwise, the power gets spread too thin. But I think the fates have in store for you to take on this responsibility."
What Bonet would find under these copper jackal pieces is a note that when they stopped last night on Hus's watch, he left in her belongings with the copper pieces. And
Oh man, she dropped.
that was a good part too. That was directly to her. We've been like skirting around the other ones.
Yeah.
No.
Man, technology.
No, it's more like she's like, I don't want to talk. I'm already done with you. All right, we're done with this. All right.
So now that I've got my hands on the copper pieces and I've got this thing that I can power with the blood of my enemies,
I'm a boss house bitch.
There we go.
Hey.
Hey.
Back to the note.
This note says, it reads as not a goodbye letter, but a goodbye for now letter. That it's not saying he's leaving you. He's saying that this old man will die someday. And the farmstead is going to need a good few hands in the years to come, and she should come by when she's done adventuring, when she's done exploring, when she's had enough to eat for her lifetime, when she's seen the world and found other people who care. And she's always welcome to come back for the harvest, and she's always welcome to come back to just stay a night. And it's not simply signed by him. It's also signed by Kane. And Hoos feels things. He feels other people's thoughts. They don't even reveal it to themselves. And Bonet is always running away. She needs to find herself. She needs to use her talents. She's a good person. She's got great gifts. And one of the best things Hoos has seen in these few years, in these past since Lightfall, is people who can stand up for themselves and people who can stand up for others. He's entrusting her with these coppers. He's not tossing her aside.
And as you finish reading that, Bunai, I'll get it right eventually. As you finish reading that, you look up and you see Amrael with her arm outstretched, and she says, "Are you ready, my dear? We're about to begin."
Bonet starts to nod, but then she stops and she runs over to Hoos and gives him a really big hug, like as tight as, this little halfling can, and it's like, she looks at him and she's got tears in her eyes and she's like, I will find you again. Like, I will. And then she slowly lets go of him and, makes her way over to the elf.
And Amrael is patiently waiting. She understands the gravity of the situation. And she kind of outstretches her hands, saying, "The pieces, that which has been unmade must be reforged." And do you give her the copper?
Yeah, Bonet hands her the copper.
And if you've never seen anything quite like this, Hoos, you maybe have at least heard about it in your travels. Amrael is holding the copper pieces in her hand, and they begin to glow red hot. This is a variant on heat and metal, which is a spell that you've seen mostly used for things like this, for repairs and for forging. You can see she's heating the copper, and she presses her two hands together and magically impresses upon it the sigil of the copper jackals. And still, while it's red hot, she looks to you, Bonet, and she says, and she, without saying anything, she presses the metal into your shoulder, and it doesn't burn, it doesn't flare or sting. It just kind of feels like almost like a bite as it embeds itself. And she stands there and thinks for a moment. Thinks, what am I going to call someone like you? Someone with so many names. Hmm.
I feel like Bonet works.
And she kind of chuckles and says, no, it's a name you must leave behind.
What?
But if you insist, I could name you Bunny. You certainly do eat like one.
She nods her head like, yeah, that's true.
Says, so it shall be. And then she kind of embraces you in a hug and she says, and now you are one of the points of darkness and light, like the stars in the night. Without compromise, we will prevail against this darkness that has fallen upon this land. It might take centuries, but we will prove that heroes have a place in Dragon Grin. And I'm proud to call you my sister in arms. And I know there is a place where you are sorely needed. You will find some of your brethren there. I can't tell you what their state may be, but from what I've heard of this city, they're going to be happy for any help they can get. It's a long journey, but it's where the fates tell me that you belong. And she kind of takes out a piece of paper and writes on it, writes Mendara, folds it, and puts it in your hand and says, your journey begins now. You'll find your brothers, and you'll change the world.
Bonet looks at the paper and she kind of gives her a nod, and she heads out, and on the journey she leaves both the elf and Husper standing there, and just tightens the straps on her backpack and kind of heads out of the basement, out of this house and everything.
Yeah. And the last thing we would see is a slightly older Bonet, not by much, maybe 6 months older, decked out, and her gear is better, her stature is much more confident, standing on the deck of a sailing ship. And you see a gruff-looking sailor kind of nodding respectfully to you and says, "Milady, Mendara on the horizon. Ill tidings, though. We're only going to have a moment to drop you off. We don't want to stick around. It's a plague. Are you sure that this is where you want to be?"
Bonet pulls out the paper that's obviously been looked at again and again. It's very used, the same paper that the elf gave her, and she's like, "I'm sure." And she also, in her pocket, where she puts it for safekeeping is also the very worn letter from Husper that she keeps close to her heart and reads several times a day.
And as you arrive in the dock and depart, the sole person to depart from the ship, the sole ship in the harbor that is not even sitting at anchor. The only ship that seems to be moving in and out from this, what would be a very busy port town. The last thing that you see before the scene kind of ends is this Durgar-looking man who steps forward with a wide grin and says, "Ah, milady, your arrival has been foretold by this letter." And he kind of chuckles a little bit too much. He says, "The name's Bori. Pleasure to meet you."
Pleasure to meet you. Got any food?
And with that, it kind of pans out to you on the dock as music swells, and it would cut to credits at that point, I would imagine.
Aw, I like it.
And for the end cut scene, the after credits, there's an old dwarf sitting at his chair near the hearth. His tiefling companions cleaning up the night's meal in the kitchen, and he gets up, creaking and cracking, but with a smile, and grabs the longsword mounted to the wall, and almost he starts tearing up, thinking back on his companions, and above that is an arrow that killed a Nolt many months ago, and he thinks about his adopted daughter, and how at least one of his family's out there doing the best they can for the right reasons.
Nice. Well, I think with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this session. But I do have to say, tomorrow, willing that nothing technologically goes awry, which never ever happens, but we will be doing session 5. I call this session 4.5 because it's kind of between the two sessions of the Infernal Argentum series, with our full cast of characters, plus our newest member, Bunai. And on...
Bunai.
I mean,
I did it again.
Actually, you're both wrong. It's Bunny.
Bunny.
No,
Yes, it is. It's Bunny.
It's Bunai.
Bunai Rabbit. And on Wednesday, I'm going to be playing in Matt's Sewers Under Sandwall game, so be sure to check that out.
Sweet.
And on Saturday, I'm going to be running session 1 of on the Beyond the Horizon.
No, you're not, liar. Come on.
Having played the session 0 last month, so got a very busy schedule this week, but I'm super excited. So hopefully we'll see you guys there, and by that I mean my viewers and definitely my players. So, yep, I'll be seeing you all tomorrow, and have a great gaming week.